back to my channel. If you happen to be new here, my name is Jess. Today is going to be my first semi-spooky video of the season. I wanted to go ahead and kind of talk about all of the favorite books that I have that are a little bit more on the spooky side. There is going to be a lot of Stephen King in this just because, as you guys know, I fucking love Stephen King. So of course there's going to be quite a bit of him in this, but I hope you guys like it anyway. I do have quite a few other kind of spooky, but not really necessarily like horror themed books that I wanted to talk about, but let's go ahead and just get started because I feel like this might be quite a long video. Now the first book I'm going to be talking about here is actually a book that I've had for a really long time. It is more of a, I don't want to say poem book, but it's not really like a book, like it doesn't necessarily tell a story, but it is by one of my most favorite people on the planet. It is The Melancholy Death of Oyster Boy by Tim Burton. I fucking love this book. It has so many different stories in it, and it's also kind of like drawn. There's like little drawings inside of it. If you guys are familiar with Tim Burton, you know that he does like such an amazing job of making like spooky kind of like popular. But I read this book every single season, every single October, because it is October. It's October 2nd as I'm filming this, but I fucking love this book. It is definitely like not necessarily like for adults by any means, but it's not necessarily for children either. He has a really weird way of like towing that line. Like one of the poems here is The Boy with Nails in His Eyes, so definitely not necessarily like friendly for children, but still very, very cool. Now the next book I have on here is by Neil Gaiman, and it is a book that I read when I think I was in the 7th grade. I just started 7th grade and my teacher, you know, had like obviously like her library, my English teacher did, and that's where I first found this book. And I fucking love it. It's not necessarily like creepy like horror themed, but it is definitely a little bit weird. It is Coraline by Neil Gaiman. I've spoken about this book before on my channel, but I absolutely love this book. It is about a girl who she moves to this new town with her parents, and then her parents kind of start acting funny, and then you start to realize that there is somebody else in the house with them, and it is this woman who wants her to accept her as her mother. It is, in a way that Neil Gaiman does it, everything is incredibly weird by him, but this book is definitely like one of my favorite books to read in October because it does have a little bit of spook to it, but it's not incredibly spooky. If you have seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about, but it's definitely a little bit weird, a little bit different, and definitely one of my most favorite reads for October. This is one of the drawings that is in it. This is the 10th anniversary edition, so it did come with some drawings, but if you guys have not read this book, I would definitely read it. It's perfect for October time, and it's also a really, really great movie to watch. They did make it into a movie not too long ago, so if you haven't seen either of these or read this, I would definitely recommend this as well. Now moving into the second portion of this, which will pretty much predominantly be Stephen King. Also, I have to say I'm sorry if I seem a little bit like stuffy and I'm not speaking very loudly. I'm actually really sick. My husband got really sick from someone at work, we think, and then of course he brought it home, and now I'm kind of sick. It didn't hit me until today, unfortunately, of course, right as I'm trying to film, but just bear with me. But the first book that I wanted to talk about by Stephen King that I think is incredibly spooky is The Shining. Now I have an incredibly old copy of this. I've actually thought about replacing this, but I kind of like the way that it looks on my bookshelf, so I won't be replacing it. The Shining is about a family who moves to Colorado into this hotel, and the hotel starts kind of doing weird things with their mind, or at least with the dad's mind, and he goes a little bit crazy. Now most people are familiar with this, so I won't kind of go into like too much depth. However, the storyline is a really, really great read for October. However, I really, really appreciate this book around October time. The movie always plays, you know, at this time of the year, but if you have not read this, I would definitely recommend it. It is a very, very like kind of like a fast-paced read for some reason. I don't know why, I blew through this book. I don't tend to blow through Stephen King books. I tend to like read them very slowly, but this one was definitely a very, very fast read, and I think it is perfect for October. Now, kind of playing off of that, I also have here Doctor Sleep by Stephen King. This is technically the second book in The Shining, in like the duology, I guess is what you can call it now. It takes place with Dan Torrance, who is the son of Jack Torrance, the main character from the original Shining, and it follows him around, and it kind of embellishes the story a little bit more. It adds a little bit more to the story that that we didn't know was there, and I like that Stephen King does that. When this book came out, I was super pumped to read it. I fucking love the cover for this as well. But if you have not read this, this is kind of like a little bit more cultish than what The Shining was, but I think it is an absolute necessity to read that if you are going to read The Shining. And then the last Stephen King book that I'm going to be speaking about today is one of my most favorites. It is Needful Things. I love the cover of this. I love Stephen King's like really shitty cover designs, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's because it's nostalgic for me or what, but I fucking love them. This, like I said, is Needful Things. This is about a small town who a shop owner comes and kind of opens a store, and it's called Needful Things. And you can go and kind of trade things with the shop owner for other things that he does have or things that you greatly desire. Now, there's obviously a lot more to the story because a lot of bad things started happening for people who are trading things. A lot of like obviously really creepy things, a lot of really terrible things start to happen, but this book is absolutely wonderful, and it is my most read Stephen King book around this time of the year, just because it is, like I said, very fast-paced, and there's so many characters in this that it definitely keeps your attention, and I absolutely love this book. Alright, now I'm going to be moving into more of like classic things that I think you can read in October that are a little bit more spooky. The first one that I have here, excuse the edition of this book, I've had this book for forever. It is Select Poetry and Prose of Poe. Nothing is more quintessential in October than anything Edgar Allan Poe related. I've actually read pretty much every single thing that he's ever done. I love the way he writes, I love the stories that he writes. It's definitely just a bunch of different things in this one book, but you can definitely pick and choose what you're in the mood to read. Most people have probably read at least one thing by Edgar Allan Poe, but I really honestly think that essentially everything that he has written is perfect for the month of October. And the last book that I'm going to be talking about is once again an author that has a ton of writings. He's written a ton of things, but I think that it is very important to read anything by him over the October months, and it is H.P. Lovecraft. This is just the big like faux leather bound edition that I have that my friend got me. I absolutely love everything that he has written, honestly, like because it is such an older, you know, like author, because he is such an older author, the writing in this is absolutely beautiful, and I think that that's very, very important. I would say The Tomb is my favorite short story by him. It follows a man who finds a tomb behind his house and starts going a little bit crazy trying to go further and further in depth of the tomb, and this is definitely along the same line as Edgar Allan Poe. It's written in a very beautiful way, but it's also obviously very spooky, and it's different from the normal spooky that we're used to. It's not like, you know, serial killers or, you know, like horror, like ghost demons, things like that, but I just love the way that these kind of books are written, and I love the way that H.P. Lovecraft writes his stories. So if you're looking for something just like a short read, I would definitely pick up an H.P. Lovecraft book. I still wish I wasn't sick, because I feel like I'm losing some of my like charm, because I literally feel like I'm dying. I can't wait to like take a bath and just relax today, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video anyway, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!